Exodus chapter 20, the Ten Commandments. And God spoke all these words, saying, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is on the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. You shall not bow down to them and serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me, but showing steadfast love to the thousands of those who love me and my commandments, keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant or your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourner who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. Honor your father and your mother. Your days may be long in the land of the Lord your God is giving you. You shall not murder, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male servant, or his female servant, or his ox, or his donkey, or anything that is your neighbor's. Now when all the people saw the thunder and the flashes of lightning and the sound of the trumpet and the mountain smoking, the people were afraid and trembled. And they stood far off and said to Moses, You speak to us, and we will listen, but do not let God speak to us, lest we die. Moses said to the people, Do not fear, for God has come to test you, that the fear of him may be before you, that you may not sin. The people stood far off, while Moses drew near to the thick darkness where God was. Laws about altars. And the Lord said to Moses, Thus you shall say to the people of Israel, You have seen for yourselves that I've talked with you from heaven. You shall not make gods of silver to be with me, nor shall you make for yourselves gods of gold. An altar of the earth you shall make for me, and a sacrifice on it to ease your burnt offering and your peace offering, your sheep and your oxen. In every place where I cause my name to be remembered, I will come to you and bless you. If you make me an altar of stone, you shall not build it of hewn stones, but if you yield your tool on it, you profane it. You shall not go up by stairs to my altar, that your nakedness be not exposed to it. Luke 23, Jesus before Pilate. Then the whole company of them arose and brought him before Pilate, and they began to accuse him, saying, We found this man misleading our nation and forbidding us to give tribute to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king. And Pilate asked him, Are you the king of the Jews? And he answered him, You have said so. Then Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowd, I find no guilt in this man. But they were urgent, saying, He stirs up the people, teaching throughout Judea, from Galilee even to this place. Jesus before Herod. When Pilate heard this, he asked whether the man was a Galilean, and when he learned that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him over to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at the time. And Herod saw Jesus and was very glad, for he had long desired to see him, because he had heard about him, and he was hoping to see some sign done by him. So he questioned him at some length, but he made no answer. The chief priests and scribes stood by, vehemently accusing him. And Herod, with his soldiers, treated him with contempt and mocked him. Then, arraying him in splendid clothing, he sent him back to Pilate. And Herod and Pilate became friends with each other that very day, for before this they had been in enmity with each other. Pilate then called together the chief priests and the rulers and the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was misleading people. And after examining him before you, behold, I did not find this man guilty of any charges against him. Neither did Herod, for he sent him back to us. Look, nothing deserving death has been done by him. I will therefore punish and release him." Pilate delivered Jesus to be crucified. But they all cried out together, "Away with this man, and release to us Barabbas," a man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection, starting in the city, and for murder. Pilate addressed them once more, desiring to release Jesus, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him, crucify him." A third time he came to them. "Why, what evil has he done? I found him in no guilt deserving death. I will therefore punish and release him." And they were urgent, demanding with their loud cries that he should be crucified. And the voices prevailed. So Pilate decided that their demand should be granted. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, for when he asked, but he delivered Jesus over to their will. The crucifixion. And as they led him away, they seized Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, and they laid on him the cross to carry behind Jesus. And there followed him a great multitude of people and women who were mourning and lamenting for him. But turning to them, Jesus said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, the days are coming when you will say, Blessed are the barren, and the wombs who never bore, and the breasts who never nursed. Then they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, cover us. But if they do these things when the wood is green, what will happen when it is dry?" Two others who were criminals were led away to be put to death with him. And when they came to the place that was called the Skull, where they crucified him, the criminals, one on his right and one on his left, and he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they cast lots to divide his garments. And people stood by watching, but the rulers scoffed at him, saying, He saved others, let him save himself. If he is the Christ of God, his chosen one. The soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. There was also an inscription over him, This is the king of the Jews. One of the criminals who were hanged railed at him, saying, Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us. But the other rebuked him, saying, Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward of our deeds, but this man has done nothing wrong. And he said to Jesus, Remember me when you come into your kingdom. And he said to him, Truly I say to you, today you'll be with me in paradise. The death of Jesus. It was now about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour, while the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, calling out with a loud voice, said, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. And having said this, he breathed his last. Now, when the centurion saw that he had taken place, he praised God, saying, Certainly this man was innocent. And all the crowds that had assembled for this spectacle, when they saw that he had taken place, turned home, beating their breasts. And all his acquaintances and the woman who had followed him from Galilee stood at a distance, watching these things. Jesus buried. Now there was a man named Joseph from the Jewish town of Arimathea, and he was a member of the council, a great and righteous man, who had not consented to their decision and action, and he was looking for the kingdom of God. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then he looked it down and wrapped it in a linen shroud and laid him in a tomb cut in stone, where no one had ever yet been laid. And it was the day of preparation, and the Sabbath was beginning. And the women who had come with him from Galilee followed and saw the tomb, how his body was laid. Then they returned and prepared spices and ointments. On the Sabbath they rested according to the commandment. Job chapter 38. The Lord answers Job. Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man, and I will question you, and you will make it known to me. Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me, if you have understanding. Determined its measurements? Surely you know. And who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk, and who laid the cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors, and then it burst out from the womb? When I made clouds its garments, and thick darkness a swaddling band, and prescribed limits for it, and set bars and doors, and said, Thus far shall you come no further, and where shall your proud waves be stayed? Have you commanded the morning since your days began, and caused the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the skirts of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It changed like clay under the seal, and its feathers stand out like a garment. From the wicked the light is withheld, and the uplifted arm is broken. Have you entered into the springs of the sea, and walked in the recesses of the deep? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. Where is the way to the dwelling of the light? Where is the place of darkness, that you may take it to its territory, and that you may discern the path to its home? You know, for you were born then, and the number of your days is great. Have you entered the storehouses of the snow, and have you seen the storehouses of the hill? Have you reserved the time for trouble, for the day of battle and war? What is the way to the place where the light is distributed, and where the east wind is scattered upon the earth? Who hath cleft a channel for the torrent of rain, and a way for thunderbolt? To bring rain on the land where no man is, on the desert in which there is no man, to satisfy the waste and desolate land, and to take the ground sprout with grass? Has the rain a father? And who has begotten the drops of dew? From whose womb did ice come forth? And who has given birth to the frost of heaven? The waters became hard like stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Can you bind the chains of Pleiades, and loose the cords of Orion? Can you lead forth the Mazaroth in their season? Can you guide the bear with its children? Do you know the ordinances of heaven? Can you establish a rule on the earth? Can you lift up your voice to the clouds, that the flood of waters may cover you? Can you send forth lightning, that they may go, and say to you, Here we are? Who has put wisdom in the inward parts, and given understanding to the mind? Who can number the clouds by wisdom, and who can tilt the waterskins of the heaven? When the dust runs into the mass, and the clouds stick fast together, can you hunt the prey for the lion, or satisfy the appetite of young lions? Can you crouch in their dens, and lie in wait in the thicket? Who provides for the raven its prey, when its young ones cry to God for help, and wander about for lack of food? 2 Corinthians chapter 8. Encouragement to give generously. We want you to know, brothers, about the grace of God that has been given among the churches of Macedonia. For in a severe test of affliction, their abundance of joy and the extreme poverty have overflown in a wealth of generosity in their part. For they gave according to their means, as they testify, and beyond their means of their own accord, begging us earnestly for the favor of taking part in the relief of saints. And this, not as we expected, but they gave themselves first to the Lord, and then by the will of God to us. Accordingly, we urge Titus that as he had started, so he should complete among you this act of grace, that as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in earnestness, in our love for you, see that you excel in this act of grace also. I say this not as a command, but to prove by the earnestness of others that your love also is genuine. For you know the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, that though he was rich, yet for your sake he became poor, so that you by his poverty might become rich. In this matter I gave judgment. This benefits you, who a year ago started not only to do this work, but also desire to do it. So now finish doing it so as well. So your readiness in desiring it may be matched by your completing it out of what you have. For if the readiness is there, it is acceptable according to what the person has, and not according to what he does not have. For I do not mean that others should be eased and you burdened, but that as a matter of fairness, your abundance at the present time should apply their need, so their abundance may supply your need, that there may be fairness. As it is written, whoever gathered much had nothing left over, and whoever gathered little had no lack. Commandment, commendation of Titus. Thanks to be to God, who put into the heart of Titus the same earnest care I have for you. For he not only accepted our appeal, but being himself very earnest, he is going to you of his own accord. With him we are now sending the brother who is famous among all the churches for his preaching of the gospel. And not only that, but he has been appointed by the churches to travel with us as we carry out this act of grace that is being ministered by us, for the glory of the Lord himself and to show our goodwill. We take this course so that no one should blame us about his generous gift that is being administered by us. For we aim at what is honorable, not only in God's sight, but also in the sight of man. And with him we are sending our brother, whom we have often tested and found earnest in many matters, who is now being earnest than ever because of his great confidence in you. As for Titus, he is my partner and fellow worker for your benefit. As for our brothers, they are messengers of the churches and the glory of Christ. So give proof before the churches of our love and our boasting about you to these men.